The United States-Canada border has long symbolized not just a line on a map, but a living testament to peaceful coexistence, mutual respect, and shared prosperity. Stretching over 5,500 miles, it is the world's longest undefended border, a place where two nations have built a unique relationship, marked by open arms and open roads. For generations, this friendship has shaped the lives of millions, fostering vibrant communities and thriving economies on both sides. Families, friends, and businesses have flourished thanks to the easy flow of people and ideas across this invisible line. But in early 2026, a chill has settled over this historic bond, casting a shadow over the once bustling borderlands. The warmth that once defined cross-border exchanges has been replaced by uncertainty and hesitation. Border crossings that once buzzed with activity now stand eerily quiet. Canadian visitors, who were once a familiar and welcome sight, have become scarce. The impact is visible everywhere. Empty storefronts, silent diners, and deserted parking lots stretch from Maine to Washington, leaving local economies struggling to adapt. This isn't just about lost dollars or declining sales. It's about a fraying relationship, one that's being tested by political tension and a growing sense of alienation among Canadians. Many now feel unwelcome, their trust in the cross-border friendship shaken. For decades, Canadians crossed the border as neighbors, shoppers, and family members, supporting American towns and weaving a rich, shared social fabric. Their presence was more than economic. It was a symbol of unity and goodwill. Now, that flow has slowed dramatically, challenging the stability and spirit of entire regions. Streets that once bustled with cross-border visitors are now quiet, and the sense of community is fading. Unlike past dips caused by singular events, like economic downturns or temporary travel restrictions, this decline is the result of a sustained political climate. It's a climate that's left many Canadians feeling unwelcome, uncertain, and disconnected from their American neighbors. The consequences are immediate and deeply personal for those living along the 5,525-mile border, where cross-border ties are not just occasional, but a daily reality. Families, friendships, and livelihoods are all at stake. This is the story of why our Canadian friends are staying home, how it's reshaping life along the border, and what it means for the future of our shared continent, a future that now hangs in the balance. To understand today's downturn, we must first appreciate the deep normalcy of the US-Canada relationship. For generations, the world's longest undefended border has been more than just a line on a map. It's been a living, breathing connection between neighbors, friends, and even families. The border has shaped the daily rhythms of life for millions, quietly underpinning a unique partnership that many took for granted. For over a century, the border was more a seam than a barrier. Billions in trade, families split by the line, students crossing daily, and communities sharing services and celebrations. Weddings, reunions, and even funerals often spanned both sides, with relatives and friends moving freely to mark life's milestones. Local businesses thrived on this constant flow, and border towns developed a culture that was neither fully American nor fully Canadian, but something uniquely their own. Canadians have long flocked to the US for shopping, vacations, and work, forming the backbone of local economies in states like Maine, New York, and Michigan. American retailers eagerly awaited the weekend rush of Canadian license plates, and cross-border tourism became a vital part of regional prosperity. For many, a trip across the border was as routine as a drive to the next town. This partnership weathered economic storms and fostered a shared North American identity. Even during tough times, recessions, political disagreements, or global crises, the border communities found ways to support each other, holding joint festivals and parades that celebrated their intertwined histories and futures. The Windsor-Detroit corridor, where thousands commute daily, exemplifies this integration. Here, the border is not a barrier but a bridge, literally and figuratively, linking two cities, two economies, and countless personal stories. The ease of cross-border movement was a symbol of trust and friendship. It reflected decades of cooperation, where border guards often recognized regular travelers by name, and families felt at home on either side. When that pattern is disrupted, as it was in 2025, it signals a fundamental shift, not just in travel, but in the very perception of the relationship. The once busy crossings fell silent, and the sense of shared destiny was suddenly in question. The absence of Canadian visitors is a quiet protest against a changing political landscape. It's a reminder that the ties binding these two nations, though strong, are not unbreakable, and that the future of cross-border kinship depends on choices made today. In 2025, Canadian visits to the U.S. slowed to a trickle, a historic sustained decline. Vehicle crossings dropped by 30.9%, or 7.6 million fewer trips compared to 2024. This wasn't a gradual slide, but a sharp, prolonged fall, directly tied to escalating trade tensions and harsh rhetoric from Washington. In Maine, Canadian travelers dropped by 367,000, while other nationalities barely changed. The data points to a conscious Canadian decision to stay home, with profound economic and social consequences. Even American travel to Canada dipped, but the Canadian decline was the central story. Each cancelled trip was lost revenue, and a small tear in the social fabric connecting the two nations. The catalyst for this shift? The political climate from Washington after President Trump's 2025 inauguration. Aggressive tariffs on Canadian goods, inflammatory rhetoric, and even outlandish threats of annexation shattered decades of trust. Canada responded with retaliatory tariffs and a powerful Buy Canadian movement, urging citizens to boycott U.S. travel. The result: border communities lost their most reliable customers, and a trip to the U.S. became a political statement. Hardline immigration policies and increased scrutiny at crossings fueled fear, especially among Canadians of color and those with ties to Muslim-majority countries. The border, once open and friendly, became a place of anxiety and confrontation. The political fallout isolated communities and deepened the rift. Nowhere was the economic impact sharper than in Maine, where the border with Canada supports fragile local economies. For generations, these border towns have relied on a steady flow of Canadian visitors, neighbors who come to shop, dine, and fuel the local economy. The relationship is woven into daily life, with cross-border commerce acting as a lifeline for many small businesses. In 2025, nearly 750,000 fewer people crossed into Maine from Canada, a hemorrhage of consumer spending. The once busy checkpoints became eerily quiet, and the absence of Canadian license plates was felt in every corner of these communities. Retail sales in border regions fell by 3.3%, and restaurant and lodging sales dropped by 4.9%, while the rest of Maine saw growth. The contrast was stark. While cities further from the border thrived, border towns faced empty storefronts and declining revenues. For small businesses, these losses were existential. Many owners faced impossible choices: cutting staff, reducing hours, or closing their doors for good. The ripple effects spread quickly, impacting employees, suppliers, and entire families. The Buy Canadian movement hit hardest in towns, where Canadians make up a large share of day-to-day business. Shops that once bustled with cross-border shoppers now stood empty, and local shelves were left untouched. Local entrepreneurs became collateral damage in a trade war they didn't start. Their livelihoods, built on decades of cross-border trust, were suddenly at risk, with little warning and even less recourse. The economic winter in Maine is a sobering reminder of how border prosperity depends on goodwill and open access. When that access is lost, the chill is felt not just in the economy, but in the spirit of the community. The cost of a fractured friendship is measured in closed shops and struggling families. For Maine's border towns, the lesson is clear. Economic health and community well-being are deeply tied to the bonds that cross the border. Beyond economics, the border chill has a human cost: fear and fractured communities. Heightened scrutiny and political tension have made the border a source of anxiety, especially for students and families with ties on both sides. Canadian students now opt for online classes to avoid unpredictable crossings, eroding campus life. Everyday interactions, hockey games, festivals, family visits are now fraught with hesitation. Informal networks and friendships are strained as face-to-face contact dwindles. For those with dual citizenship or family across the line, the border is now a stressful divide. The erosion of trust and community is profound, turning a backyard fence into a barrier. The true cost is measured in lost connections and quieter lives. Amid the decline, the Windsor-Detroit corridor stands out as an exception. While national crossings plummeted, Windsor-Detroit saw only an 11% drop, just 4.5% at the tunnel. Why? Deep economic integration. 11,000 Windsor-Essex residents work in Detroit, making cross-border travel a necessity. This steady commuter base insulated the region from consumer boycotts. Cultural ties, sports, entertainment, and shared traditions also kept traffic flowing. For Windsor residents, Detroit is an extension of home, not a foreign destination. The corridor functions as a single metro area, defying the national trend. Local identity and necessity made Windsor-Detroit an outlier in a year of decline. Experts agree, the 2025 decline was a direct response to U.S. policy and rhetoric. Statisticians like Laura Presley confirm the drop was historic and structural, not a temporary blip. Economists at the Maine Center for Economic Policy trace the pain in border towns directly to Washington's actions. Business leaders like Tal Zudner of the Windsor-Detroit Tunnel highlight how local factors can override national trends. The U.S.-Canada relationship is a complex tapestry, some ties strong enough to weather political storms. The data, the economics, and the local stories all point to one conclusion. Canadians stayed away as a rational response to perceived hostility. The consequences were deep and far-reaching for border economies and communities. This was no accident, it was a message. The events of 2025 left the US-Canada relationship deeply wounded. The drop in Canadian travel is a message of discontent, with real economic and social costs. Rebuilding requires a change in tone and policy, replacing aggression with respect and partnership. Local communities can help mend the social fabric through grassroots efforts and cross-border outreach. The story of 2025 is a lesson in the fragility of even the strongest friendships. The health of countless communities depends on nurturing this unique bond. The quiet border crossings are a call to action, an invitation to rebuild together.